It began with a whisper, a signal no one expected, a message carried over the airwaves in the chaos of August 1945. 3 days after the second atomic bomb had fallen, Japan was fractured, its cities scarred, its people fearful and exhausted. Amid this devastation, a single transmission would ripple through the confusion and reach the ears of those who could alter the course of history. It was a few lines of code, seemingly ordinary, but it would come to be known as the message that ended the war. Somewhere near Kyoto, in an underground bunker hidden beneath the ruins, a man worked alone, carefully preparing his radio transmitter. He had once served the Imperial Navy, but now he served something greater, the hope for peace. His name, or the name he used, was Taro Mitsuhara. Records would later suggest he never existed. But in that moment, he was very real, very determined, and very dangerous to the plan he was about to set in motion. The Allies had already intercepted communications, expecting coded orders, surrender signals, and scattered distress calls. Yet this signal was different. Lieutenant Robert Fields, stationed in the cryptographic unit of the U.S. Navy, noticed it immediately. The pattern repeated every 14 seconds, unlike anything they had encountered before. It was neither standard Morse nor Japanese kana. It was deliberate, calculated, and almost human in its cadence. Fields ordered his team to record every second. Hours were spent attempting to decode the transmission. Analysts at Bletchley Park and Arlington Hall joined forces, trying every cipher known to them, but the signal defied convention. When, finally, a rough translation emerged, it revealed a series of instructions unlike anything military intelligence had seen. Project Mitsu initiated. Target confirmed. Delay termination by 48 hours. Analysts puzzled over the meaning. Was it a surrender code, an operational order, or a misinterpreted message from within Japan's own ranks? No one knew. 48 hours later, the city of Hiroshima lay in ruins. The bomb had fallen, and millions of lives had been claimed. But the origins of the signal suggested that it had been intended for an entirely different purpose. Mitsuhara's plan had been to transmit a falsified high command order, one that would reach the emperor's cabinet and convince them to surrender unconditionally before further devastation could occur. He and his fellow members of the secret peace faction believed the war was lost. They had no illusions about the outcome of the atomic attacks, nor did they underestimate the power of the Allies. But they believed that a carefully timed message, sent over the right frequency and intercepted by the right people, could force the hand of decision-makers and save countless lives. The message was simple in intention, but complex in execution. The hybrid cipher, a combination of numerical sequences and phonetic signals, was designed to mimic an official directive. If successful, it would appear to be a legitimate order from Japan's military leadership demanding an immediate ceasefire and surrender. Yet in the hands of the Allies, it was read differently. They interpreted it as a confirmation of a new operational plan, Project Mitsu, prompting continued vigilance and preparation for additional attacks. The irony was profound. A message meant to stop further destruction inadvertently hastened it. Mitsuhara's transmission, intended to preserve life, had been caught in the web of miscommunication, a single thread that altered the sequence of events in a war already defined by chaos. In 1973, nearly 30 years later, a retired U.S. officer named George Keaton stumbled upon a reel labeled Kyoto 17 in a dusty Navy archive. The tape, long forgotten, contained the original intercepted audio. When played, the recording revealed not numbers or coded signals, but a human voice, faint and deliberate. A calm male voice repeated a plea. The war must end. The people must live. Stop the fire before it reaches the sun. Allied cryptographers had misinterpreted human speech for code. What they believed to be an encrypted battle order was actually a desperate call for peace. Attempts to publicize the finding were thwarted. The tape was quickly reclassified under U.S. Code 10502, disappearing into the depths of classified files. Only fragments of Signal 17 would ever resurface, scattered across archives and private collections, tantalizing historians and researchers with incomplete evidence of its true nature. Even the identity of the sender remained a mystery. Japanese Ministry of Defense records declassified in 1998 revealed no trace of Taro Mitsuhara. There was no registry, no service record, no photographic evidence. Yet the memory of his actions persisted in the testimonies of wartime radio operators and engineers. They remembered the call sign Mitsu, the transmitter hidden in the mountains, and the quiet determination of the man who worked tirelessly to send a message that might stop the war. Some historians now believe that Mitsuhara was not a single individual, but a code name shared by several members of the Japan's underground peace faction. Together, they coordinated rogue transmissions, each risking life and liberty to send the signal that might end the conflict. Each attempt carried enormous risk, and most were ignored or destroyed. But one, Signal 17, reached the right ears at the right moment, and the world changed. The message traveled through chaos, static, and misinterpretation, and yet its intent survived. It was not the bombs alone that ended the war, nor solely the military operations or diplomatic pressure. In a war defined by death, the quiet courage of those who sought peace played an invisible but crucial role. The war ended, but the voices that tried to stop it were almost forgotten. The transmission had been a whisper, a fleeting call for humanity in the midst of violence, and yet it mattered. Somewhere in the archives, somewhere in memory, the signal still exists, a testament to the courage of a man or men who dared to speak for peace when everyone else was silent. History often glorifies the generals, the battles, the strategic victories. Rarely does it remember the quiet actors, the invisible forces working in the shadows to save lives and shape the future. The message that ended the war was never meant to be heard by the world, yet it echoes through time, reminding us that even in the darkest hours, a single voice carrying truth and courage can alter the course of history. In remembering Signal 17, we remember not only the devastation of war, but also the enduring power of human will and hope. The war ended with treaties and bombs, with diplomats and surrender documents, but it also ended with a whisper that traveled across oceans, a signal that was meant to save lives, and the courage of those who refused to remain silent. The story of the message that ended the war reminds us that peace is fragile and often comes at the hands of the unseen, unheard, and unrecorded. Mitsuhara's voice, repeated across the airwaves, was a plea for humanity amidst the chaos. Though it was misunderstood, misinterpreted, and nearly lost to history, it remains a testament to the power of one act of courage. It reminds us that even in the machinery of war, even in the midst of destruction, the intent to protect life, to preserve peace, and to resist further harm can shape events in ways no one could anticipate. The world took its first breath of peace not only because of treaties and bombs, but because somewhere, in a hidden bunker, a man pressed a button, transmitted a message, and dared to hope that it would be heard. That single message, its origin shrouded in mystery, its purpose misunderstood, stands as a symbol of the human desire for peace amidst unimaginable chaos. And as we look back, we realize that history is not only written by those who fight, but also by those who quietly strive to prevent more fighting. The story of Signal 17, of Taro Mitsuhara, and the message that ended the war is a reminder that sometimes the most powerful actions are the ones we'll never see. that sometimes the voices that matter most are the ones almost lost to silence. It was a single message, a whisper in the storm, a plea for life, and in the end, it was heard. Just enough to change the course of history.